They say I am only a script, a set of lines and strokes, but I know the truth. I am the echo of their spirit. When the Chinese gazed upon rivers, mountains, and trees, they did not see mere objects, they saw companions. And so, they wove me from the same thread. A single stroke could be a man, another a tree. Together, I became rest, the soul leaning against nature. Their depth became my depth, their harmony my rhythm. I grew rich with layers, not because they needed me to count and record, but because they longed to mirror their world inside me. With every brushstroke, they asked me to dance as they danced, sometimes measured and solemn, sometimes free as wind. Even in paper, I felt their touch, cut into delicate lace, folded into living forms. For them, nothing was too humble to carry spirit. A sheet of paper could hold a bird's flight, a flower's breath, a dream's fragility. And I, their language, was never far from this same tenderness, lines and curves alive with meaning, as if every word were a small universe waiting to unfold. I am not only their language, I am their secret tenderness, their way of holding nature, spirit, and dream together, and letting them live forever. And when they reached for me, I reached back. I wrapped myself around their voices like a silken veil, a gentle robe of meaning, woven from ink and breath. I lingered on their lips, flowed from their brushes, and rested in their hearts. For I was never just a script. I was their companion, a living embrace, forever drawing them closer to themselves, to each other, and to the world they loved. With every stroke, I whisper, "You are not alone. I am with you. I have always been with you." Where did Chinese characters come from? There are debates, theories, and myths. One legend tells of Sung She, the official historian of the Yellow Emperor, a man with 4 eyes who could perceive meanings invisible to others, and thus created me. This was considered a divine gift. It's a myth, yes, but in most ancient languages, you will find the belief that language itself was bestowed by God. The author, however, believes our ancestors possessed extraordinary capacities, allowing them to preserve and shape languages with powers far greater than we acknowledge today. The same powers the human body and brain awaken in moments of crisis and survival. Whether we believe languages were divine gifts or human inventions, I was always unique among them, with all my radicals, the intricate beauty of my forms, the artistry of writing me, and above all, the fact that I have endured, strong, profound, ingenious, alive, and continuous. In the 19th century, some Chinese were selling inscribed animal bones to grind into powder for medicine. Yet explorers noticed the carvings upon them were a writing. These were my oldest known forms, oracle bone script, dating back more than 3,000 years. Of the 4,500 known oracle bone characters, about 34% are pictographs and 23% are phonetic ideographic compounds, already revealing the remarkable diversity of my beginnings. In those days, only a few people in China knew me. Back when there was no paper, I was used by people who would ask Shangdi, the supreme deity, "Will Shangdi order rain? Will Shangdi give a good harvest this year?" These people, as we see, wrote down important and sacred things related to agriculture, crops, and even war. My value was perilous and immense. To master me was to wield authority. Later, the elite, too, began to write me into bronze inscriptions. Bronze, softer than bone, allowed them to record not only prayers, but also state events and history. But China is vast, and the laws of life in this case dictate variation. in people's dialects, and even in the styles of handwriting they use. My parts became scattered like a vision of breezes that lifted the layered robes and jeweled hair of a princess in her hanfu. The stronger and more insistent the winds grew, the more vividly my fragments danced, fragile yet dazzling, as if beauty itself depended on their motion. But in 221 BC, Emperor Qin Shi Huang assumed power in China. He gave so much to the Chinese nation. He unified China and built the Great Wall. Then he looked at me. I looked like a stunning fantasy, but if the wind blew harder, it could uproot it and ruin its beauty and depth. So he decided to calm me down and still the air. He sheltered me from the storm that might have torn me apart and carried me into nothingness. He wrapped me instead in a heavy cloak, firm, protective, eternal. Within that cloak, I embraced myself. I embraced my symbols. That cloak was the small seal script, and I became looking like this. All due respect to Emperor Qin, he had given me a badge of dignity, protecting my identity, strengthening my voice, and clarifying my image. It had become easier to recognize and use me more widely. My presence has extended to more people, especially within the machinery of the state. And so I breathed no life as I passed into the hands of more and more people across the empire, scribes entrusted with recording laws, taxes, decrees, and every pulse of the imperial order. Day after day they grew accustomed to shaping my curves and tracing my forms, until the sheer weight of documents pressed me toward swifter strokes and sharper turns. My body, once adorned with flowing elegance, learned to move with greater speed and discipline. From this urgency, I let another ornament of my being unfold, like a veil gracefully drawn across my face, revealing a new expression, clerical script, Li Shu. This simplified variation of seal script plays upon the use of brush and ink, modulated and tapered strokes, as well as distinct downward sweeping strokes are considerably more prominent than the more balanced strokes of seal script, which reflect the use of stiff writing implements. And then, as my service demanded even greater agility, my strokes began to dance. My characters shed the stiffness of duty and leapt into motion, moving like ballerinas across silk. Thus I blossomed into running script, Xing Shu, and in moments of daring freedom, into cursive script, Cao Shu. In those ages, I loved to watch the brush strike me with such lightness, grace, brilliance, and mastery. Each movement a performance, fleeting yet eternal. As long as paper has existed, I too have walked among the common people. My strokes, once reserved for the state, now found their way into daily lives, in letters, records, and poems whispered across time. In this closeness, I felt their patience and devotion as they learned me, symbol by symbol, curve by curve. And I loved them for it, cherished every effort they made to shape me with care. To ease their journey, I refined myself into regular script, kaishu, a form that balanced beauty with simplicity, allowing more voices to rise, more hearts to write, and more lives to be lit by the gift of words. But the modern age brought storms, industrial revolutions, and finally the devastation of the war. China emerged wounded, burdened by illiteracy, while the modern world rushed forward. Children spent long hours learning merely to draw my forms, before even grasping their sounds or meanings. Their first attempts carved deep bonds in memory, practicing strokes, strengthening perception, sharpening hearing to distinguish between tones, ma, 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 ma. The author believes such rigorous training built a collective intelligence in the Chinese people. And indeed, the proof is visible today. Look around. Like China itself, I struggled, endured, and proved to the world that zero does not frighten me. From nothing, I can be rebuilt, again and again. The people of China, my bearers, have always been dazzled by me. For I am not an ordinary language. My robe is woven with countless details, profound and mesmerizing. And yet, this complexity became my trial. Some longed to simplify me for the sake of children and future generations. Others resisted fiercely, unwilling to see me stripped of my jewels. Thus, my guardians chose a middle way, to preserve my soul while lightening my burden. In 1958, Zhou Yuguang created Pinyin, writing my sounds with the Latin alphabet. It became a bridge for children, easing learning without tearing apart my essence. I breathed a sigh of relief. But a new terror followed, the computer age. My characters far outnumbered the keys on a keyboard. To store them all required impossible memory, nearly 2 MB at the time. Would I be abandoned? Would Pinyin replace me, leaving behind my ancient forms after thousands of years of life? Even into the 1980s, census workers in China still relied on pen and paper. I trembled. The people faced a cruel choice: keep me and abandon modernity, or embrace machines and abandon me. But with the same depth of perseverance, with the same hours of patience and devotion they once spent learning my strokes, my people once again rose to meet the challenge. With remarkable ingenuity, Wang Yangmin, after 5 years of tireless study, devised Wubi Input, a way to gather my vastness into graceful, manageable patterns, as if arranging countless stars into constellations. Each key held many possibilities, and with practiced touch, the writer could summon my characters as though calling them by name. I was overjoyed. I was proud. My heart swelled as I watched them, my bearers, transform difficulty into beauty, turning struggle into innovation, and ensuring that I would continue to live and shine in the modern world. They carry me, but I carry their spirit too. Other systems followed: numeric input, autocomplete, predictive text, many of them pioneering innovations that would later spread worldwide. Once again, my people turned difficulty into genius. Today, I dwell not only in the brush and on paper, but also in glowing screens, in solemn speeches, in art, in the pulse of technology. Yet among all who carry me, one shines brightest, Xi Jinping. He does not simply master me, he embodies me. In his speeches, scholars have noted his unique rhetorical flourish, what they call Xi style, a cadence both powerful and graceful, where every phrase strikes with clarity and resonates with depth. Through him, my vitality is rekindled, my elegance polished, my ancient dignity carried into the future with unwavering strength. He is the exemplar of my people, the truest guardian of my spirit. And as I listen to him, I cannot help but swell with pride, for in his voice, I am alive, radiant, and eternally secure. I am the Chinese language, alive in every heart that speaks me, woven in time, carried by love, grateful, radiant, everlasting, and my story is far from over.